Okay, there is a lot of things to dive into with this topic. We're going to see how y'all react to it, because it could be tumultuous, to say the least. Hello and welcome to FTTR, I am Hugh McQuaid, and today we are talking about AEW. We are in fact talking about a reboot of AEW, but before we dive into that, please subscribe, please like this video, please comment your thoughts down below. What do you want to see from AEW now, since it's slowly becoming the B show, if you will? It's sort of becoming a punchline, sadly. And that's what we're here to talk about today. That's what we're here to fix. That's what we're here to look at. But we've got to go through what was a bad week for AEW, from the Ric Flair signing to the Paul Wight reveal on Dynamite to just the general conversation surrounding AEW Collision as well, and the ratings that they are drawing. It seems AEW might need to go back to the drawing board with some of their concepts, some of their ideas, and reevaluate what AEW is. And I think that's the biggest issue with AEW at the moment. It seems like they've lost their ideals. It seems like they've lost their ideology from when they were first formed back in 2019. Hence why I've used that in the thumbnail and used that graphic, because AEW then is a completely different AEW to what it is now. And you can look at that and say, yeah, times change. Look at the Attitude Era compared to the PG era of WWE. You can, but I don't think there was anything wrong with what AEW was doing in the beginning. Obviously, they're going to grow and they're going to progress and they're going to get bigger, ideally, as a business should do. But I think they've made some missteps along the way. They've lost that key focus of being a WWE alternative. That was what they were pitching. They should never have been competition. They were the alternative that were going to, blow the roof off the place and draw in lapsed fans. And it seems now it's become a bit of a joke, a bit of a running gag. Tony Khan's announcements, you've got Ric Flair, you've got Paul Wight, you've got crossovers, Ring of Honor, everything. It's just become too inflated and too bloated, which is why I am pitching in this video an AEW reboot. Now, before you get your pitchforks, before you hold the torch to me, reboot is not a bad thing. Reboot has been tainted by bad reboots, because if a reboot is done well, you get Rise of the Planet of the Apes, for instance. You get, I'm blanking on another reboot, you get Spider-Man Homecoming. That is, let us not forget, a reboot. You get the likes of Halloween, the new Halloween. Now, sequel, say what you will, but the first one, the 2018 Halloween, was good. Okay? Fight me. You can get good reboots. It's just everyone remembers the bad ones. They remember the RoboCops, the Total Recalls. We all remember those awful 80s remakes and reboots that were not good. But how do you do that in a pro wrestling context? Because pro wrestling is endless. It goes on forever. It's weekly. It's a soap opera. You don't see reboots of EastEnders, Coronation Street. Is Neighbours still going on? I don't know. Maybe Neighbours is still going on. We'll see. But I think there is a way to reboot AEW, and I think what they have to do to truly sort of just re-establish what they are and what their thesis is they need to reboot the landscape. They need to look at who they've got under their umbrella and where they want them positioned. Because right now, it feels just like someone took a sawed-off shotgun and pointed it at a wall from very close range and just scattershotted everyone. Like Kenny Omega, for instance. He is the big one. I think he's the big one that fans point to and say, Kenny Omega should not be in this position on the card. Kenny Omega is main event, and he should be main event throughout. That brief glimpse of it with MJF, but I think that is an element, that story, that Don Callis story is an element of what just needs to be rebooted and readjusted. Same with Jericho and his stuff and the JAS. What even is that that's going on with that? And just that entire vortex is sort of the the epitome of what I think is wrong with AEW, and that is their focus. They are focusing on the wrong things. I just think they need to look at the pieces that they have, realign where everyone wants them to be. What do the titles mean? What does this person want? What does this person want? What does this person want? And just slow down. Take a minute and breathe. Like if they just took a month off or something and then just realigned, okay, Kenny Omega is in the main event, Jon Moxley is in the main event, Hangman is in the main event, Adam Cole's in the main event, MJF's in the main event. Okay, main event scene right there. Maybe add in some heels, Jay Wight, or throw like Swerve in there, for instance. That's your main event scene. Okay, women's division. Who do we have under our umbrella? Let us not forget, they have so many great female wrestlers under their umbrella that are just not being used. Toni Storm, Ruby Soho, Saraya, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, Riho, Emi Sakura. It's great. There's just so many. Sky Blue, so many come to mind, but they're not being utilised. So realign that. Make Athena the prime focus of your women's division, because she should be. She should not be relegated to Ring of Honor. There you have it. Okay, we're doing this, and this. Sorted. Tag division. Let's look at that. Lay it out. Young Bucks, FTR, Starks and Big Bill. That's our story until Christmas, for instance. Those three. Sorted. And just breathe a little bit, Tony. Breathe and figure out, like, dream matches are good. I'm not complaining about dream matches. But they're not dream matches if you do them every week. If we had Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson on the Dynamite after Wrestle Dream, it'd be one too many. You've got to use them sparingly. Like, granted, using Vikingo, using, I'm blanking on the chap's name, Gravity. Using these guys from Mexico is all good, but they've not been given a story. They're just wrestling for the sake of wrestling. And I really think just rebooting this and not necessarily wiping the slate clean, like everything that happened has happened, but starting fresh. I thought that was what All Out was going to be. After All In, it'd sort of refresh everything, and you would have, just the stories ended, but we haven't really got that. We've got Callis' story continuing, we've got Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy continuing, we've got technically Swerve versus Hangman, but that did go on sort of after All Out, Darby and Christian. Everything just seems like it's carrying over, but I feel like they need a cut-off point. They need to draw a line in the sand and say, no, we are starting new stories now. I think that's just what they need to do, and then hopefully something will catch fire, because it's just feeling quite stale. Like, I think back to the early days of Dynamite, and you had such good stuff that is going to live with me forever, particularly the Inner Circle. I think the Inner Circle was one of my favourite things of early Dynamite, along with the Kenny and Hangman stuff, along with MJF just being a bastard and the Cody story. There's so much from those early days of AEW that stick with me. Other than the matches, I couldn't tell you like a blow-away promo from the last year or so of Dynamite. I couldn't tell you a killer angle. It's not being done. Everything's just meh and blah. Like, the wrestling is good, but we need angles, we need stories, and I think that's what AEW is lacking. So to draw a veil on this, in terms of a reboot, I think they should find a cut-off point. For me, that would be Full Gear. If you've missed everything, Full Gear is where you culminate Hangman, Swerve, Moxley Cassidy, Callis Omega, MJF, Jay White, and I don't even know what's going on with the Women's Championship at the moment. It's so sort of underserved. Shida, I'm guessing Toni Storm. I want to say it's probably going to be Toni Storm. You use that, boom. That is the end. We are starting new. Kenny Omega, main event scene. Maybe do Kenny Omega for the International Championship. That'd be nice. Kenny Omega and Cassidy having a feud. Maybe move Moxley into a feud with Swerve. That'd be quite tasty. Hangman MJF, I think, would be quite interesting. Just sort of realign everything. to a point where everything feels new. Boom. Slice it off at the wrist. And like, we are moving forward. I thought that's what Wrestle Dream and All Out were going to be, but they were not. So I think just my PSA to Tony Khan is just chill. Just think logically and realise that the product is stale. The product is stale, and doing dream match after dream match, announcement after announcement isn't going to save it. So I don't think a reboot's a bad thing. I think AEW needs a reboot. It needs to reinvent itself, and we will see what comes of AEW in the coming months, but things might get worse before it gets better. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think AEW needs to drastically change itself up in order to remain relevant? Let me know everything you want down in the comments below, and I'll try and reply to every single one of them. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.